It started with a whisper of intuition, not a crash, not a bang, but a quiet flicker of something wrong. That subtle shift in atmosphere, like the room held its breath when he walked in. James had a way of moving through our home like a ghost lately, present in body, but distant in every other way. I'd begun to feel like wallpaper, something always there but never really noticed. I didn't want to believe it. I tried to explain it away, the late nights, the mysterious phone calls, the weekend errands that ended with him smelling like a cologne I didn't recognize. But there's only so much pretending one heart can do before it starts to rebel. What broke me wasn't even the lie itself. It was the care with which he executed it. The calm, measured manner in which he looked me in the eye and said we couldn't afford anything extravagant right now. Bali's a dream for later, he'd told me, fingers brushing mine over dinner. You deserve more than a rushed honeymoon. More. I deserved more. So when I found the necklace, it wasn't the item that stunned me, it was the reality that I hadn't imagined any of it. That pit in my stomach had been truth all along. Let me tell you exactly how I found it, so you can understand what betrayal looks like in its raw, unfiltered form. It was a Wednesday afternoon. I was working from home, my laptop balanced on the kitchen table, sipping lukewarm coffee while the clouds outside mirrored my mood. I'd run out of earbuds. The house was quiet except for the soft ticking of the clock over the mantel. I went to James's drawer, his infamous sock drawer, the one where everything from keys to credit card statements ended up. I was only looking for headphones. Instead, I found a velvet box tucked underneath a rolled pair of black socks, as if he thought hiding something in plain sight would somehow keep it invisible. I opened it, and there it was. A delicate, gold necklace with a small sapphire pendant that caught the light and threw it back like a smirk. On the back of the pendant, engraved in delicate script, to Kendra forever. Kendra. That name slithered into my mind like a song I hadn't heard in years. She wasn't just any ex. She was the woman his mother once brought up so carefully at dinner, her name framed in nostalgia and faint regret. I remembered the way James had stiffened, the way he changed the subject so fast it left whiplash. I closed the box and stared at my reflection in the vanity mirror. Who was I in the story? The consolation prize? The woman he settled for when the one he really wanted walked away? My hands trembled, not with rage, but with realization. That night, I acted like nothing had changed. I made his favorite spaghetti carbonara, the one he claimed no one could make like me. I even lit a candle. He smiled at me like a man without secrets. We laughed about something on TV. And later, he curled around me in bed, breathing slow and deep, while I lay there with my eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. 2 weeks. I watched him like a scientist observing a specimen. The same lies. The same excuses. And then came the excuse of all excuses, a tech conference in Seattle. He packed like it was a business trip, left with a stiff hug and a kiss that landed more on my cheek than my lips. I followed him. I didn't even need a disguise. He never looked back. He checked into a boutique hotel downtown. Not exactly the venue for a tech conference. She met him at the entrance. Kendra. Tall, sleek, dressed in that effortless way that screams wealth and confidence. They embraced like lovers reunited in a tragic romance. I didn't cry. I watched. Documented. And then I walked away. When he returned that Sunday night, he kissed me like a man grateful for peace. I watched his hands, his mouth, his eyes. I watched for guilt. I found none. I waited 1 more week. Let him believe he'd pulled it off. Let him think I was still that wallpaper woman, patient and pliable. Then I took the necklace. And I sold it. $6,000. Enough to go somewhere far. Somewhere he'd only promised, but never delivered. I booked my ticket that night. Bali. The honeymoon I never had. The one he said we couldn't afford. Now I sip coconut water under a cabana, the waves whispering secrets I already knew. My phone is off. My heart oddly light. He doesn't know I'm gone. But soon, he'll feel the emptiness I left behind. Bali greeted me like an old friend who'd been waiting quietly for me to arrive. The air smelled like sea salt and promise, and the sun seemed to burn through more than just clouds. It burned through the fog I'd been living in. I stayed at a resort so lush, so tucked away between palms and whispers of paradise, that for a while I forgot the name James altogether. I wasn't his wife here. I was just me. The first few days were spent shedding layers of clothes, of expectations, of grief. I danced at beach bars with strangers who didn't ask about rings or wedding anniversaries. I ate alone at restaurants with views so breathtaking they felt like therapy. I slept naked beneath silk sheets, lulled to sleep by the crash of waves and the occasional lizard scampering across the ceiling. But paradise has a way of unearthing more than just joy. Sometimes it brings the things we bury back into the light. It was on the 5th day that I saw him. Not James. A man in a linen shirt, sitting 2 tables down at the open-air restaurant where I'd gone to try grilled barramundi. He wasn't particularly striking, not in the way Kendra was, but something about the way he looked at me made my stomach tense. Not desire. Recognition. I didn't know him, but he knew me. I played it cool, finished my wine slowly, pretending not to notice the way his gaze lingered. But when I stood to leave, he rose too. Not in a threatening way, more like an instinct. A practiced move. I walked out into the lobby, heart drumming, nerves tingling. I told myself I was being paranoid. That my little revenge vacation had made me suspicious of everyone. But when I got to my suite, the door wasn't the way I left it. It was closed, but not locked. I always locked it. Inside, nothing looked disturbed. Not at first glance. My luggage was still zipped, my clothes neatly draped on the back of a chair. But then I saw it, my phone, moved 2 inches to the left on the nightstand. And my passport, which I always kept in the safe, now resting on the bathroom sink. Someone had been here. I didn't sleep that night. I kept the lights on, a pocket knife I bought from a market stall clutched in my hand. I tried to convince myself it was housekeeping, a fluke, a mistake. But the next morning, when I went down to the front desk to ask about security footage, they told me something that made the blood drain from my face. No one's accessed your room, ma'am. No staff. No other key cards. I asked about the man at dinner. They blinked, confused. What man? He wasn't listed in the guest log. No reservations under his name. It hit me then, cold and sharp. I hadn't just run away from James. Someone was following me. By the next morning, I wasn't just paranoid. I was planning. I moved rooms, paid in cash for an upgrade in a different wing of the resort under a false name I registered through a tour agency on the island. I told myself it was a precaution. That maybe it was all coincidence. But in my gut, I knew better. The new suite was smaller, but it had one crucial difference, a balcony that faced the jungle, not the beach. No open views for prying eyes. I didn't leave the room much after that. I ordered room service, kept the drapes closed, and slept in shifts like I was waiting for war. It felt ridiculous, dramatic, like something out of a movie. But I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had placed me in the center of a slowly tightening net. Then came the letter. I woke up to find it slipped under my door. No envelope. No signature. Just a folded piece of hotel stationery with a message in blocky, all-caps handwriting. You look good in the sun. Better than you did in Seattle. Seattle. My blood iced. I clutched the letter with trembling hands and stumbled backward onto the bed. The implications were too precise. Someone had seen me in Seattle. Or knew I'd followed James. This wasn't random. It was personal. I scanned the hallway through the peephole for a full 5 minutes. Empty. When I called the front desk and asked about security footage again, they gave me the same bland reassurance. No activity, ma'am. No activity. And yet, someone knew where I was. Knew what I looked like in sunlight. Knew I had been in Seattle. That afternoon, I went to the local police station. I didn't tell them everything, just enough to file a report. A strange letter. An unknown man following me. I could see the skepticism in the officer's eyes, tourists with wild imaginations, running from shadows, but he logged it anyway. We'll keep an eye out, he said, in a tone that promised nothing. I almost booked a flight home. Almost. But then I thought about the necklace again. About how James had looked me in the eye and told me I wasn't worth it. that a honeymoon was too much. I thought about the hotel in Seattle, Kendra's arms around him, the way he had smiled like she was his secret worth betraying. I wasn't going to be chased back into silence. Not now. Not after I had finally started taking my life back. So I stayed. 2 more nights passed without incident. I started to breathe again. Even went down to the pool once, wide-brimmed hat over my face, sunglasses large enough to swallow my expression. I started to believe maybe I'd imagined the worst of it. Maybe the man was just a guest with a curious gaze. Maybe the letter was a cruel prank from a stranger. But then, on the 3rd night, I caught a shadow moving across my balcony. It was quick, silent, but unmistakable. A figure, tall and lean, ducking just out of view behind the stone divider between balconies. I didn't wait. I flung open the door with a fury I didn't know I had and shouted into the night. "Who are you?" No answer. Just the rustling of leaves and the faint sound of someone retreating down the exterior stairs. This time, I called the front desk again, demanded to speak to the manager, forced them to walk the perimeter with me. But as expected, no one. No evidence. No camera pointing toward my wing. And yet, when I came back to the room, the second letter was waiting. This one was taped to my mirror. "Do you think he ever loved you?" My breath caught. Because this wasn't just someone following me. This was someone who wanted me to break. And I was beginning to fear I might. I checked out of the resort at midnight. No notice. No goodbye. I left the last note taped to the inside of the mirror with a single lipstick mark and a scribble underneath. "You're not the only one who knows how to write." I had the taxi wait with the engine running as I stuffed my suitcase into the trunk. The driver barely spoke English, but he seemed to understand the urgency in my posture. I gave him the name of a remote village I found while scrolling through backpacker forums far from the Instagram trendy beach towns, buried inland between rice paddies and temples no one wrote travel blogs about. It was time to disappear on my own terms. The guest house was run by an old Balinese couple who spoke softly and moved like they were made of silk. They didn't ask questions. They handed me a key, made me tea with lemongrass, and left me to silence. There was no television. No minibar. Just a hammock on the porch and the sound of frogs calling to each other in the night. And for a while, I believed I had vanished. Until I received the email. It was from a burner address. No subject line. No text. Just a single attachment, a screenshot. It was my old wedding photo. Me and James. The one from our courthouse ceremony, where I wore that off-white vintage dress I bought on impulse. But something had been altered. Kendra's face was photoshopped over mine. I stared at it for minutes, unmoving, feeling my pulse beat louder in my ears than it ever had before. This wasn't just obsession. This was cruelty crafted with precision. I called James. Yes. I broke my silence. He didn't pick up the first time. Or the second. But on the 3rd try, he answered with a voice groggy and annoyed. "Hey, can't talk right now. What's going on?" "I know about Kendra," I said, low and sharp. "I saw you with her in Seattle. I saw the necklace. I know everything." Silence. Then a sigh. "Look, I didn't think he began, but I cut him off. She's following me, James. Or she hired someone. I've been getting letters. Photos. Someone was in my room." He paused. Then, carefully, almost too quickly, he said, "You're being paranoid. Kendra isn't like that. She wouldn't do that. You don't sound surprised." "I just mean, she's moved on. We both have." "No," I whispered. "You never moved on. That necklace wasn't a goodbye gift. It was a promise." He said nothing, and that silence told me everything I needed. I hung up. For hours I didn't move. I kept replaying the same question over and over in my mind. Why now? Why follow me? Why not just let me go? And then, as I sipped cold tea and stared out into the jungle canopy, the answer arrived in the form of a memory. A few weeks before I left for Bali, I'd found something else in James's drawer. Not the necklace. Something smaller. A USB drive. At the time, I didn't even plug it in. I assumed it was work-related. But now I wondered, what if that drive held something more? I called a friend back home. Layla. My only real ally in this mess. I need a favor, I told her. There's a USB drive hidden in the guest room closet, behind the baseboard heater. Can you find it? She didn't ask questions. 20 minutes later, she messaged me. Got it. There's video files on it. One of them is labeled K&J 2021. You want me to open it? No. Send it to me. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was afraid, but because for the first time since I'd arrived, I knew this wasn't just about heartbreak or jealousy. There was something else at play. Something Kendra didn't want me to see. Or maybe something James had been hiding from both of us. When the drive arrived 2 days later via an encrypted file-sharing link, I opened it on a burner laptop I'd purchased in town. There were 7 files, all unlisted, all time-stamped over the course of 2 years. The one labeled K&J 2021 showed James and Kendra in a hotel room, laughing, drinking wine, whispering things I couldn't hear. And then, near the end, he handed her a small black box. The necklace. I promise, he said. When the time is right. She smiled, then leaned close and whispered something into his ear. He flinched. The audio was too low, but I rewound it, boosted the volume, replayed that one moment, and then I heard it. Your wife will never see this coming. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just betrayal. This was premeditated. I didn't eat for almost 24 hours after watching that video. I just sat with the laptop, headphones on, clicking through every second of footage. They weren't just having an affair, they were plotting. Plotting me. Each video revealed another layer. Secret meetings. Plans whispered under dim lights. Mentions of accounts. A quiet conversation where James said, "She's too trusting. It'll be clean. She'll think she left on her own." It wasn't just about love. It was about getting rid of me. And now, I was sure of something I hadn't dared to believe until now. Kendra hadn't been following me out of spite. She was following me because I'd gone off script. They hadn't expected me to run. They'd expected me to crumble in place. Divorce quietly. Sign over the house. The accounts. Leave the life they'd been shaping without a fight. And I'd done the opposite. That night, I made my plan. No more hiding. No more fear. I wanted answers, and I wanted justice. I flew home 2 days later. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. I didn't call Layla. I didn't even go to my own apartment. I went straight to James's office. I knew his schedule, knew his assistant's lunch break, knew exactly which elevator wasn't monitored by the main camera feed. He didn't see me coming. When I walked into his office, he looked up like he'd seen a ghost. His mouth moved, but no words came. "I know," I said. His face paled. "Where is she?" I asked. "I don't know what you're talking about," he began, standing quickly, like distance might save him. I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen. Pressed play on the final video. His face drained of blood. "You recorded us?" he said, eyes wide. "No," I replied. "You did. You saved it. And you hid it in our home." He stumbled back into his chair. "What do you want?" he whispered. "Truth. And closure." He hesitated, then leaned forward, his voice suddenly low and full of desperation. "It wasn't supposed to go this far. Kendra wanted everything. The house. The accounts. She wanted to humiliate you. But I didn't. I never agreed to." "To what? Frame me? Gaslight me? Follow me to a foreign country and make me think I was losing my mind?" "She went rogue," he hissed. "I haven't heard from her in weeks. I think she's watching me now too." I blinked. "You think you've lost control of her?" He nodded. "She wanted you gone. And when you left without confrontation, she panicked. Said we had to seal the story." I stood there for a moment, letting it all soak in. The monster they'd built together had finally turned on him too. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, stepping closer. "You're going to transfer every asset with my name on it to my personal account. Today, you're going to write a confession. You're going to tell the truth. Every detail. I've already shared the files with my lawyer and with 2 journalists. If anything happens to me, or if I disappear, those files go public." James swallowed hard. "You'd really ruin me?" "You already did. This is just the invoice." He stared at me for a long time, then nodded. That was 3 months ago. James now lives in a condo he can barely afford, under investigation for fraud. Kendra hasn't been seen since the week I came home. I heard a rumor she fled the country. Or maybe she's still watching, waiting, hiding in the shadows of the life she wanted so badly to steal. As for me, I finished that honeymoon. Twice. I went back to Bali. But this time with peace. With power. And every morning, I walk the shoreline, smiling, knowing the one thing neither of them ever predicted. That the woman they tried to erase would rewrite the story entirely.